everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with some more lovely wrestling news. Check out the news video from earlier today if you want to catch up on all the other stories, but we've got a second batch of them right now. So, without any further ado, let's get into those headlines. First of all, WWE have announced 8 new Performance Center signings. Next up, we have an update on WrestleMania 37. And finally, a top WWE superstar is upset with the company's new Twitch guidelines. So first of all, yes, WWE have announced 8 new Performance Center signings. In standard fashion, you know, it's the group image of them all with the matching grey t-shirts on, property of WWE. And we'll see who they are. So let's take a look at all 8 right now. First of all, Brandi Powerlek, better known probably on the indies if you're familiar with her work as Brandi Lauren. She's wrestled in places like Evolve and Shine. I believe she's also the girlfriend of Joey Janela, so it's another example of a couple split between company lines. How exciting. But no, in all seriousness, we'll see what she's about. I'm not too familiar with her work, but hopefully she shows what she can do. She did appear recently, I believe, in that NXT Women's Battle Royal for the #1 contendership, and obviously she didn't win, but it's nice to see her get her foot in the door. In fact, the common theme with most of these signings is the fact that they are former Evolve wrestlers, such as, for example, Cameron Rogers, who's also known as Kurt Stallion, Anthony Green as well, who I believe competed under that name, and did wrestle Tyler Breeze in Evolve as well at one point. D'Artagnan Ruffin, better known as Leon Ruff, also from Evolve, a former tag team champion there, and has also competed as an enhancement talent on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and even it says here 205 Live in recent months, so WWE are clearly quite keen on him. Joseph Ruby as well, a former 3-time CZW, it's Joe Gacy, right, a former CZW heavyweight champion and former Evolve Tag Team champion as well. They're not just, you know, getting really unmolded young guys in here. They're getting people with experience by the looks of it on the whole. I mean, some of them are young, but they're also seasoned wrestlers at the same time. The towering Josh Briggs as well. He's been the Evolve champion before, of course. Jacob Kasper. This is the one that I know least about, I think. So I'll just read the full description of Jacob Kasper. Jacob Kasper is a 25-year-old amateur wrestling standout from Lexington, Ohio. He wrestled at Duke University. He was a 2-time NCAA All-American and won the 2018 ACC Heavyweight Championship and also placed in the 2016 Olympic trials. So a very elite level amateur wrestler there. Often they can make for fantastic wrestlers, so we'll see how he goes. And finally, Jake Clement of Ohio, or maybe it's just Clemens, I tried to be posh there, but Jake Clemens or Clement of Ohio, a referee who has officiated matches on Raw as well as for promotions like Evolve and AEW. So exciting times there for all of those new Performance Center recruits, a lot of them obviously from Evolve, either Evolve regulars or people who've just kind of stopped by in Evolve as well, and a lot of Evolve's former big names as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare, what their gimmicks are going to be like, if they're going to get new ring names and that sort of thing, and we'll see how they go. Good luck to all of those people. Next up, we have an update on WrestleMania 37 from WrestleVotes, who are often quite accurate with their scoops on Twitter. So they have tweeted, the state of Florida will begin allowing full capacity attendance for stadium events. Vince has been privately holding out hope for a full capacity WrestleMania. He gets his wish. Whether or not 65k fans show up is another question. Now, this has come from a man who we all became very familiar with during the original kind of outbreak, I suppose, and what that meant for WrestleMania 36, which obviously ended up taking place at the Performance Center. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who seemed to be at the heart of all of the decisions. So he has told the Miami Dolphins football team that they can have a full capacity of about 65k in their stadium, and that decision is effective immediately. Very controversial decision given the state of the world and everything, but what does this mean for wrestling? Well, first of all, it's worth noting that Andy Slater of Fox Sports 640 in Miami says that the Dolphins are planning to stick with 13,000 of very reduced capacity for their next home game, which is on October 25th against the Los Angeles Chargers. Cameron Wolf of ESPN.com reported that the Dolphins plan to stick with 13,000 fans for the rest of the season, but they have been given the go-ahead for full capacity anyway by Governor Ron DeSantis. So what we can kind of infer from this is that unless things change in other parts of the state, specifically California, where obviously WrestleMania 37 was scheduled to take place, it seems very much as though we're gonna get a full capacity WrestleMania in Florida because that's what Vince wants and he's allowed to do it. And it seems like WrestleVotes here are insinuating that he's probably not going to not take advantage of that. But then they make a very good point. Will 65,000 people risk showing up? I'd suggest that they'd probably get a fair few, maybe not 65k, but they'd probably get a lot of people going to WrestleMania. But again, it all depends on the state of the world next spring. Anything could change by then. We could be in a way better position. Parts of the world could be in a worse position, and it just depends, I suppose, what's going on at the time. But the insinuation of this story seems to very much be that if Ron DeSantis has given everybody in Florida the go-ahead to hold big stadium, full capacity events, then Vince McMahon, who is very keen for that for WrestleMania next year, will take advantage of it. So very concerning times there, but you never know. Things could all change by then. We could still have Mania in California, perhaps. We could have it in Florida under a full capacity stadium event, or we could have it under a reduced capacity, or maybe even privately again, if the situation worsens. And I suppose as well, it could all depend on the result of the US election, because if Joe Biden gets in, then maybe policies will change, everything will become a little bit more left-leaning, and maybe more precautions will be taken. I don't know, that could be wild speculation on my behalf. Next up, hopping over to AEW for a moment, because obviously this week was 30 years of Chris Jericho, but next week's Dynamite is also themed. It's the AEW anniversary show, 1 year of AEW Dynamite. And we have 3 title matches set for that show. 2 new ones announced on this week's Dynamite. So the one we already knew about is Jon Moxley taking on Lance Archer in defense of his AEW World Championship. There's a very nice video package hyping this on last night's Dynamite, with Moxley alone in a bar somewhere and cutting a really effective promo and then just downing a shot at the end, slamming it down and storming out. And what he did was really cool. Obviously, Lance Archer's got this catchphrase, "Everybody dies," which basically means I am going to wreak havoc on everybody. Moxley subverted it. So he said exactly the same thing, but he went, like you say, everybody dies, which means, I think, more, I'm so reckless, everybody dies, I'm going to do whatever I can to ensure that I keep this title around my waist. I thought that was a really cool little touch. But the other 2 title matches in question, we'll see FTR defend the AEW tag team titles in one of their Brush with Greatness 20-minute showcase matches. They've recently won 2, one against SCU and one this week against Jack Evans and Angelico, the Hybrid 2. Their challengers next week are Chuck Taylor and Trent, best friends. But Chuck and Trent aren't the only members of that little collective, that little trio who are going to have a title match, because Orange Cassidy has secured himself a title match too. He will be taking on the 2-time now TNT champion Cody for that title. And I should point out as well, if you haven't seen Cody versus Brody Lee from last night's Dynamite, check it out. That dog collar match was absolutely awesome. Cody's on a hot streak right now, which bodes very well for the match against Orange Cassidy next week. Of course, you know, Orange Cassidy's a very different type of stylistic matchup for Cody than Brody Lee was, but at the same time, Cody has shown tremendous versatility in his first TNT title reign. He can face a number of opponents, whether he's playing the heel role or the babyface role, so I think I'm pretty confident for that match being an enjoyable one too. Next up, let's take a look at a top WWE superstar who has publicly come out and said that they are unhappy with WWE's new Twitch guidelines, and it's none other than a very active person on Twitch from WWE, in fact, AJ Styles. AJ Styles said on his own Twitch stream that he was disappointed about finding out about this news regarding WWE taking over Twitch accounts, saying that he learned the news on the internet, he didn't learn it personally, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. He said, for guys who are on here trying not to only work for WWE, but get on here on Twitch and stuff like that, you think it'd be a lot easier to communicate with us and us alone instead of whoever it is behind the scenes. And them going to Joe Blow and them having more information than us. Is anything set in stone? I don't think anything is. I think it's going to come down to communication. And I can totally understand Styles' grievance there. I mean, it must be very annoying, especially when you've got independent contractor status, to try and, you know, do something for yourself on Twitch, try and do a little bit more that way, only for your employer to come in and go, no, we want a piece of the pie, we want to take control of this, we want to monitor what you're putting out, they're probably going to want some financial benefit from it as well. It's very disheartening, I suppose, and it maybe does discourage ingenuity, originality in the WWE roster, trying to get out there, be your own person, be your own original character, and try and do things for yourself. And that kind of goes against the message that we often hear is given to the WWE talent. So very disheartening there for WWE superstars on Twitch. However, it is probably a good sign that somebody as prominent and as respected and as experienced in the business as AJ Styles is coming out and saying, no, I don't agree with this isn't on, and taking a bit of a stand against it. It wasn't the most furious and aggressive of stands, but it was certainly a stand nonetheless. So maybe people can rally behind him, maybe something can be ironed out. I don't know, we'll have to see how it develops. Next up, some very relevant news from Fightful, who have reported a little bit about the developing relationship, or the possibility of a relationship, between two key promotions, All Elite Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I say that's very relevant for two reasons. One, obviously Harold May has moved on from New Japan. It seems like new management will be taking over, or has already taken over, New Japan, which could signify a change in their relationship or their outlook on other promotions and working with others, specifically in this case AEW. And the second reason I say this is because last night on AEW Dynamite, obviously it was Jericho's 30-year anniversary celebration of his time in the business, and he received loads and loads of celebrity voice messages from people both inside and outside of the business, people like Shaquille O'Neal, Gene Simmons from Kiss, Kevin Smith, but also a lot of wrestlers, Lance Storm, Chavo Guerrero, and very intriguingly, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now obviously Tanahashi is the big babyface, the ace. You could argue that he's still the ace possibly of New Japan, certainly one of its most popular figures ever. And the fact that he cropped up on Dynamite to wish Jericho well seems to imply maybe the reopenings of a relationship between the two sides. Fightful said that one top AEW star apparently told them that Harold May had alienated many of the English-speaking talent on the New Japan roster, and said there wasn't a ton of belief in Harold May to begin with, and that Tony Khan had really done his best to maintain an amicable relationship with New Japan. If you remember, there were open clauses in certain contracts saying that AEW stars could still go over and work for New Japan, as we saw the likes of Jon Moxley do. Fightful also quoted a certain member of the New Japan roster who had said they hoped a relationship between the two companies would materialize, citing more money for both companies and for the wrestlers themselves as well as the reason behind wanting it. However, he also mentioned that New Japan's planned expansion into the United States could be a potential bump in the road, because obviously they're going to become competitors to AEW if it goes well. Certainly more direct competitors than they have been otherwise, just, being the top dogs of Japan. Even though, Westerners do enjoy New Japan and they're certainly the most visible to Western audiences, they don't connect on the same level with a Western audience as AEW do. But if they continue to expand into the US, then that could all change. So that's it for now. Very interesting developments there across the board. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below. Make sure you stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.